the oxygen abound with other elements to form rocks, to form oxides, to form water, H2O, to form carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, 1 carbon and 2 oxygen. And there was no free oxygen. So you and I would not be able to live on the planet then. Then somewhere along the line, some very, very smart little bugger invented fire. What? I love that. Okay. Good job. I love it. We just have fun in our class, yeah? So somebody invented, what do we depend on? How do we get the energy from the sun? All right, some little bugger invented photosynthesis. And what that means is that this little creature learned a really smart little trick. And what it does is take CO2 from the atmosphere and rip the carbon away and throw away the oxygen into the atmosphere. And what does it do with this?
Eat it.
It becomes it. Good for you. And that it becomes it. So that little bugger makes its own body with carbon. And use that carbon, that whole process also creates energy. And then that stuff is so good that other creature comes along to eat it, right? And build more complex creatures. And a lot of the creature, when they die, what happens to this? It gets buried into the ground, like you said. All right, very good. It gets buried in the ground. Okay, stay here. Who has a blanket? I forgot my jacket. Who has the jacket? Can I borrow a jacket to bury this? Oh, very great. Thank you. Let's bury this guy in the ground. Okay, and it buries it. Now, how old do we say the Earth is? 4.65 billion years old. Now, how many of you, when was the last time you actually took out the $1 billion you have in your mattress and counted it? It's been a while. What is my point? My point here is what? It's a very large number. And do you actually relate to that number? Do you know what it really means outside the fact that it's really large? Do you know it would take you years to count up? If you count one number per second, and you do that 24/7 without going to the bathroom or eating, it would take you years to count up to that number, to 1 billion? Do you know that? If you were to count up to the age of the Earth, it would take you over 100 years. Not eating or pooping. To count up to that number. Now, so what I've done in order to help you to relate to that number is I created the Earth's history in my hands, and each centimeter on this string, how big is a centimeter? 1 centimeter is less than half an inch, yeah? So how many centimeters am I holding between my fingers?
100.
Centimeters. Less than 1 centimeters, yeah? Each centimeter on this string represents 1 million years. So I'm holding between my fingers how many years? 1 million years. How many years I'm holding in my fist? 5, probably 7 or 8, up to 10 million years, yeah? So this is the sense of time. So how many years have we gone by? Quite a few. And Amos, raise your little string over there. What do you see? String. You see what? Green. You see green. What do you think that represents? Life. That represented photosynthesis. So it took over 1 billion years went by. So all that is over 1 billion years before photosynthesis began. Now, do we have oxygen now in the air? No, why not? Because oxygen what? Likes to get married. So even though we were making oxygen, the oxygen was continually binding with other elements, and still we had no free oxygen in the atmosphere. And this continues for how long? This continues. and continues for millions and millions and millions, and over 1 billion years, that finally free oxygen begins to appear in the atmosphere. Finally. But do we have enough to breathe? No. So it keeps making, all these plants keeps making more and more oxygen by ripping carbon away and building life with that carbon. And it keeps doing it again and again for millions and millions and millions of years. Ooh, it just keeps doing that. They work so hard. And then it was making such a really good, okay. Woo! What do you think happened here?
Life.
What kind of life? What happened here is finally the atmosphere has accumulated enough oxygen that is able to sustain life like you and me. And that was merely about 570 million years ago. And so creatures, complicated creatures, we thought there was no life before then because they're all tiny little, microscopic stuff, and we thought there was no life. So we only realized recently that life began long, long ago. It's just the conditions were so different, so the kind of life you could support is very, very different until then, 550 million years ago. Right? So we started making more and more complicated sugar. The sugar was getting so good. Fish comes along and eat it. Rabbits comes along and eat it. And we come along and eat everything else. Okay? So, and when did we come along?
There.
This is when we came along. And what have we done since we came along?
Everything.
We eat everything, and then what? We pollute it, and what else do we do? What? All right, good job, Junior. So we come along, we started digging. We started taking all this earth away. We started digging and digging and dig out the carbon. And we do what?
Release it back.
When we dig out the carbon, what do we do with it?
Burn it.
We burn it, which means what?
Use it for fuel.
Which means what?
Put it back in the atmosphere.
Which means what? It means it reunites it with the oxygen and make carbon dioxide. So those oxygen are no longer available for you and me. Talk to each other. What did you get out of this? Okay, guys, so who wants to share? What did you get out of that? Yes, Nolan?
We discovered that life will continue on Earth even if humans don't. It came before us, it will be after us, so even if we release all the carbon back into the atmosphere, things will survive, we just won't.
Very good, very good. So we're not taking the Earth down or taking life away. Not at all. We're not that powerful. All we're doing is just killing ourselves, right? Okay, thank you. What else? Yes?
I'd like to know how the heck are we doing all this a lot faster than nature is?
How are we doing this?
How are we doing all this ridiculously faster than nature's pace?
Thank you, thank you. So Thomas' question is, how are we doing this? How is it that we're doing it so fast? How are we doing it so fast? Tell me. Technology, yeah, expressed as driven by greed. But how are we, civilization as it stands now, how are we doing it? Let's be a little more specific. How exactly are we doing it?
By consuming more than we need.
By consuming what we need, we did earlier, right? And that's what it means. That's what we're trying to do. Figure out what it means when we have a footprint of more than 4 Earths, right? And this is what it means. And okay, hey, let's get more specific. Cars. We do it by driving. We do it by burning the lights in the daytime. We're doing by well, I don't know about breathing because we've been breathing for a long time. We actually do put so that's another piece of it. We're doing it so fast. If we do it by breathing, we'll not do it so fast, right? We do it so fast by the keys and technology that allows to us to dig everything out so fast and we burn it all at once. We want it all, right? So that was one piece, is energy. So what else do you get from this? So the consumption of energy. So what it really means, so you may be the winner, but are you really the winner?
No.
Is there any winner in this story?
No.
There's no winner in this story.
Jellyfish, actually.
There's no winner at all. They are winning and they're coming back like crazy. So the ocean is actually devolving, as people say. So life evolution has become more and more complex over time. Now it's going back to the lower life forms. So the ocean has been devolving, and we're seeing lots and lots of jellyfish. So get used to the taste of jellyfish. So what else? Yes?
We also talked about how the process that took 4.5 billion years to kind of figure everything out, we've sort of deconstructed in like 30 years. And just the fact that this delicate balance took so long, our rate at which we consume is indicative of the fact that we're not doing it right.
Okay.
Comparatively.
So Alex is saying that if you look at how long it took for us to figure things out to get to where it is, and the speed that we're reversing, like Thomas, so quickly, it's in itself be an indication that something is not right? This is not going to be good, right? Okay, very good. Anything else? Now, all of that, I'm not just telling you a story. All of that is actually written in the Book of Rocks. And in my hand, I'm holding this rock that is 2.5 billion years old. That is when free oxygen first began to appear in the atmosphere. And we know that because we see that they begin to oxidize. Remember when they first come into the atmosphere, they still want to grab onto everybody else. So they were actually combining with iron and making the iron formation. And that is the source of our iron today. That formed 2.5 billion years ago. When that is gone, that is gone. So there's many, many pieces of the story. Right? The next piece of the story, so the most important piece is energy. We talked about energy. And the next important piece is, in terms of consumption, or breaking it down from energy, what is the next thing that's really important in supporting life?
Water.
What? Water, good job. And we also talked about water in terms of virtual water. Yeah? Everybody remembers that? And I need someone to drive this for me. So here's another picture that shows you that I'm not just telling you a story. The story is actually backed by facts in the real world. So we have physical evidence when photosynthesis began. Okay. Next one, please. And here's a better picture of what we call the iron formation that shows us that what was happening in the atmosphere. So we can measure the atmosphere by really looking at what's in the rocks. Next one. So we see that we're having a real problem with water, a worldwide crisis, a water shortage. Next one, please. So this is actually one of the, if you go back just one slide, sorry. This is actually the major river from Australia, and Australia, and this is what it looks like now. So all major rivers worldwide are running dry. And what does it mean when we say a river is running dry? It no longer makes it to the ocean. Very good. And that has lots of consequences that we talked about, right? Okay, next one. And so to really understand that is have to understand the concept of virtual water, and we've sort of worked on that. And most people don't know, most people know the population went crazy. Most people don't know is that the consumption of water actually increased twice as fast as population. Next one. So there are different ways of assessing water footprint. We looked at water footprint earlier, and what it means by virtual water is basically you look at all the water that it needs in order to produce what you use. And also in the process, a lot of water is polluted. And so we also look at that, how much water is being polluted. So once it's polluted, it's no longer available for people to use. Right? So next one. So here's a flow chart that sort of like explains how like making a shirt when you have a shirt, you don't think about all of this. But it's all these processes that it takes to make that shirt, and every single step requires what? Water. All right, good job. Next one, please. So, and gray water footprint is when you pollute the water, the process to produce what you use actually contaminates the water and makes it not usable. Next one, please. So here are some examples of